We ready to rock and roll?
We're ready to rock.
All right, so just explain to a non-business person what Chapter 7 is, and why, how it's going to affect you.
Yeah, I mean, it's already affected me, right? Yeah. So pretty much, Chapter 7 is bankruptcy, where you go in as a business owner if you have debts that exceed your ability to pay them back. Right. So in the instance, I owed the bank several $1 million. I had other liabilities to the landlord, to some of the purveyors. And at that point, it was just, I couldn't pay them back. Like, I had money that was actually tied away in like long-term investments, REITs, annuities, houses. Okay. And I couldn't get to them fast enough. And for me, as a business owner, I knew I couldn't have my employees work and not be able to provide them a paycheck. Right. And because of how we were losing money with the COVID situation, I mean, you go from, 7 out of 10 stores being profitable, having cash flow, March Madness coming, expecting a windfall cash, then March Madness getting canceled, basketball canceled shortly thereafter, and you go from all 10 stores bleeding money at a pretty aggressive rate. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's very challenging to make those decisions, especially even hindsight 2020. I still would have kept the stores open. Like, I mean, I look at restaurants now and they're struggling, right? And, they have the signs on their door and please respect the server that actually showed up to work, yeah, exactly. Right? Chicken wings are $25 for an order of 12 wings. So I just think, making a decision at the time for me, it was just like, money you can get back, time you can't. Right. So at the time when I closed the stores, I knew like, I have to file Chapter 7. You knew. Yeah. But it was just like, all right, how do I get my ducks in a row? How do I try to pay off as much as I can? Mm-hmm. And because some stuff unfortunately survives bankruptcy, so you want to make sure when you come out, you're as good as you possibly can. Right.
How do you go about doing that? I mean, you pay them back. What's the process?
Yeah, so what survives bankruptcy is like typically tax payments. Okay. So you got to make sure that your taxes are paid because obviously they're going to come get you. Yes. And then obviously like marital obligations and things like that. Some of those things kind of survive. So, but it was very challenging trying to get people on the phone to actually figure out what some of the numbers were. Okay. So that was a huge portion of it. Just trying to figure out like, one is the way that you can potentially file Chapter 13, which is like a reorganization. Mm-hmm. So in Chapter 13, you actually reorg, you tell everyone you're going to pay them back at a discounted rate. You agree to a certain amount of period of times. This reporting is a lot of paperwork. So we were looking at every angle, but then at the end of the day, it was just like, it just makes sense to reorg because the stores weren't going to, yeah. So now I had to pay them money from something that wasn't even, right. So it just didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Oh, what did you have? What was in your portfolio?
In terms of assets?
Assets, the businesses that we would know
of. Yeah. So the businesses, the Pickles, there was 10 locations. Mm-hmm. And at the time, right, it sucks now, and this is kind of something that I teach, right? You want to be a small business or a large business, mm-hmm. right? If you're a small business, you don't have the overhead that you would need. You're small, a lot of accounting is getting done at the store level. There's no overseers, if you will, and, project managers for the store. Okay. Everyone's kind of managing themselves, and you're able to make a lot of money. However, if you want to grow, you be busting out the seams. So in order to grow, you got to go to mid-size and put together like infrastructure and structure, right? Thus having an office, having an admin, having a director of operations, having a controller, because the goal was to grow corporate stores, which we got to our limit at 10, and probably two too many, right? Or 3 too many since there was 3 that was negative. But the goal was really to franchise. And at the time I had 7 franchisees signed. So a franchisee, you get a royalty rate from them and don't have to put up, any guarantees. So the whole goal of the market was for me investing in the stores and locations, mm-hmm. so that the franchisees wouldn't experience some of the stuff that I've learned, right? Poor locations, food costs, like purveyors. So a lot of those things we spend a lot of time organizing, getting in order so that our franchisees can be successful and that we could kind of have that franchisee model and kind of keep our 7 and then kind of like just focus on the franchisees and helping them be successful.
And you had a couple of restaurants downtown. You had
Georgia. They were gone before the actually shaked out.
Up before okay.
Yeah. So that reason was like so Georgia Reese's is like I love summer food, right? I know now it's a lot cheaper just to cook it myself and learn how to cook it than I have to. But it was like in my opinion, like a little ahead of its time, right? It's up elevated Southern cuisine. It wasn't cheap, right? But it's fried chicken, so I would get compared to like other places that fried chicken. Right. But the standards that we had, the fryers that we used, we had a liquor license, we had an expensive build out, we had all these things, and people just weren't used to kind of paying that price for that type of elevated service.
Okay. What else did you have? You had.
So I had like 12 rental properties.
Char Blue?
Yeah, Char Blue was going as well.
Okay, so you had some restaurants that didn't quite make it before that.
Correct.
Did that enter into this equation or into the pickle situation? Like, did losing those restaurants have an impact on what's happening now?
So yeah. So anytime you shut down a business, right, there's financial, ramifications. So it definitely didn't hurt that those businesses went under, right? Because I unfortunately invested and lost a lot of money there. Mm-hmm. But at a point, even when I had Georgia Reese's downtown, which was about break even, making a little bit of money, but just the amount of time that I was spending down there, I was really looking at, and I still think, sports bar in general with TV, with sports betting, they ever legalized it to a point where you can have it inside your restaurants. I still think there's some huge potential. And for me, it was just like, I have to give up the good to potentially go after the great. And I think franchising Stack Pickle, it was going to be far easier for me to just do this over and over again, like repeatable, as opposed to focus on a one-off restaurant.
So why weren't you able to franchise? Because
I did franchise. I had 7 franchisees.
You had 7 franchisees.
That was all going to open in 2020.
Oh God. Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. So the cash flow and my investments were all based on franchising. So you figure our average AUV of a store is 1.5 million.
What's AUV? You got
average unit volume of a store.
Okay.
So 1.5 million, you get 5% of that as a royalty. Mm-hmm. So essentially, you get $75,000 per store. Okay. That opens. Right. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, it's probably like another $10,000 to $50,000 in ancillary. Because then you get kickbacks and other type of things from your purveyors because you're the head of the snake and you negotiate these contracts. Right. So then you get money from other organizations for like your negotiation, your buying power. So in addition to like making franchise, I also get better cost structure for my current locations. So as you get bigger, that's why you want to grow. It's called economies of scale, where you can lower your price point, and then I would lower my expenses, and at the same time add additional revenue with the franchise locations.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were ready to take off.
Yeah.
When the pandemic hit.
Yeah, I mean, it was. In addition to that, I mean, I had 20 speaking engagements on the books, right? So I mean, 2020, I was positioned pretty well. I mean, it took a lot of work to get there, and again, it wasn't without struggle. I mean, I had. Some locations that I definitely needed to reevaluate, maybe shut down. But we had some pretty strong locations, pretty strong footprint, a lot of raving fans. Our food costs were in line. So, I think, once we'd have hit the sales that we needed to do March Madness, everything else, we'd have been fine.
Yeah. When did you know we can't make this thing go, man? We just can't keep going along like this.
So the pandemic, so a few things occurred, right? So first, they shut down March Madness.
Right.
So for us, not speaking for other stores, but I think it's pretty consistent, but because it's Indiana, because of what you drove through today to get here, right? People typically aren't going to go out and eat, in these conditions. So you would struggle for, January, February, and then March it comes, and there'll be a big swing, big cash flow event with March Madness, and that would kind of run into basketball playoffs. Would then go, you get baseball, you got teeter, and then back to football season. So March Madness was huge for us in terms of the amount of cash flow. So when we didn't get March Madness, I was like, yeah, this is gonna hurt. Then they shut down basketball.
Right.
Then I'm like, yeah, we're. And then they said, hey, you can't sit at the bar. So then goes our bar sales. Then they said, hey, you can't even go to a restaurant. It's all third-party delivery. So then at that point, I'm like, damn. So I have 300, 400 employees that makes no sense to keep, because what we're making at third-party delivery, in which we pay 30% to DoorDash or Uber Eats, whoever comes in, like I'm losing money, like hand over fist. So for me, just looking at, I think, unemployment, was coming in and everything like that. So I'm just like, man, there's still no end in sight. There's still no, talk about, what could be done. At one point, and it's funny on what they will and won't, go back and do. But at one point, we had a case for business interruption insurance. So in my opinion, and
That's what it's for, isn't it?
So our provider didn't have it in their thing that it excluded a pandemic. There were other providers that had language that mentioned a pandemic. Ours did not. So there's supposed to be this big big lawsuit. So the government, they don't bail out the business owners, they bail out the people who then go spend money, right? So because we'd have kept the money and invested back in the locations, but I mean it's a business interruption event. I'm paying insurance for business interruption, and then then this is the kicker. So then we're working with the bank, we're working with the landlords. So we're still trying to figure it out. We're undecided on what exactly we're going to do. So we start to put together a plan to come back to the stores. I've already laid everyone off, so they're all getting unemployment. And then I try to bring back the team. And I had several managers, assistant managers, tell me that they weren't coming back unless I increased their pay because they're getting paid more on unemployment.
Welcome to America. What are you gonna do?
So it was that day when I was like, yo,
It's not working.
I mean, how? Right? And no one cared how much I sacrificed, what I gave up, what was on the line. And people would still say, oh man, you got out the business, you screwed everybody. I jumped on a grenade. I knew what the financial picture was. I knew what I was up against. I jumped on a grenade and put everyone in position first in line so they could get unemployment, so they could get taken care of, wrote resume letters for everyone else. So it wasn't like I was set myself, I had this hidden pot of gold that I was going to get, right? I knew shit was going to get really tough. But for me, it was just my job as a boss was to take care of my employees first. And that's what I did. And then, when several people told me that they weren't coming back unless they got a raise, and it kind of makes sense for them. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone has to do what's best for them, right? So I get it. And there was no more money to give them. So, and then the commodities increase. So now you got to figure in, now you have to put in procedures for COVID. So now you got to buy more miscellaneous items, masks, other type of things. So now the 8%, 5% that your restaurant makes, now it's down to 2% because the other money is going to buying all these other items.
Right.
So for me, it was just man, at that time, I just felt it's fortunate. But in my mind, just being an entrepreneur, just money you could get back, time you can't. And the amount of time and stress that I feel like I'd have went through and endured, and probably, who knows, if I'd have made it all the way up until this year, they actually had some type of law where they paid back every restaurant, everything they lost, right? And then some. So, I mean, I'm thankful for the people that stayed in and were able to get that money and kind of get that support, man. But it was just tough. And for me, making that decision, it's just it was the best decision for me at the time to make.
That decision? I mean, do you remember the day, the place, everything? So
for me, one of the things I wanted to do, I didn't want my employees to kind of hear things how the rumor mill goes and what's he going to do? He's going to shut this place down. He's going to shut that place down. Because during the process, there was stores that I was I did let the employees know, this store will not be reopening. Right? West Lafayette was a ghost town in the summer, like high rent, didn't make a lot of sense for us to reopen that store. Right. So we have some location like that. So the other stores like, all right, he's not reopening that. What do you think about it? Like the other stores, I'm undecided. Like if we're able to go back in and make money, like this thing blows over, like we'll open back up. And then when we got to the point where we were ready to do that, like I said, I mean, people were just making more on unemployment than they would at the job. So it made no sense for them to come back to work.
Right. I mean, in a normal time, bar restaurants are hard businesses, aren't they?
Yeah.
Why are they such tough businesses to be successful in, even without a pandemic?
There's a lot of room for error. So you look at, from a dollar, right? You look at how that gets broken down, and so much gets paid to food cost and bar costs, and there's always this assumption that you make money at the bar, right? That's why you open a bar, you make money at the bar, and that's partly true because the margins are around the same. So if you're a good operator, you're like 30% food costs, 25% bar costs. That's liquor and also beer, right? You kind of get blended. Where the money gets made is cost to produce. So in order for 50 people in a restaurant to get served food, you probably need 4 cooks in the back making $13 to $16 an hour. Okay. In order to serve 50 people alcohol, there's one bar making $2.13 an hour. So you take a $60 hourly rate for cooks versus a $2.13 hourly rate for bartenders. Right. So in addition to that, man, it's just like then, service. Right. You have to have good training, good service. You have to have a good location, good traffic. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of different variables that come into play. And then, as technology increased, the having the DoorDash and third party delivery. I mean, we saw DoorDash go from 0% of our sales one year to 10% another year to up to 35% of sales.
What a racket.
Mind you, at 25 to 30%, like gross profit, that's how much they get from you.
Wow. Maybe I'll stop doing it.
No, I'm guilty. I do it.
Yeah.
So initially, the third party purveyors, because they wanted to kind of like dig their hooks in, they wouldn't let restaurants increase their prices on the third party.
Okay.
So at that time, I couldn't even increase the prices to make up for the amount that I lost.
Right.
So now over time, they've gotten better and allowed restaurants to kind of charge more. Now you order a third party delivery, you're gonna pay.
Yeah.
Right? A meal at the restaurant is $20. It might be $35 to get delivered to you, but you're like, hey, it's convenient.
It's convenient. Yeah. You started to tell me. I'm trying to get to that moment when
right.
you said we got to close this whole thing. I mean, you spent a good part of your life building this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an easy thing to say. We just can't make a go of it. Do you remember when and where? And
yeah, I mean, we would have weekly meetings. Still, I have my director of ops still working, and I have my controller still working, and we're crunching the numbers. We're working with the banks, talking to the landlords, trying to do the best that we can. And I think it's after, I get those calls that my managers weren't going to be able to come back to work because they get paid more on unemployment. Mm-hmm. At that point, we couldn't find, new managers to go open up, locations. Right. And in addition to that, like, even with the PPP money, we kind of ran the numbers on that stuff. And, I mean, with the restrictions in restaurants, we were still going to lose money. So, I mean, it's one thing, like in business, there's, math, and you just look at what you're paying, what your expenses are.
What's coming in.
You would look at the labor rates of what you had to bring back, and you look at the sales and what you're trending at during those times. And we were still going to lose money.
Were you in a meeting when you said, guys, we just can't make a go of it? Or do you remember? I'm trying to get to that.
No. I think at the same time, talking to the bank, being behind on the loan, it was just between the pressures of there and we had, forensic accounting, looking at, what we could do and what different plays. We shut down these stores. We had investment decks out, like, hey, if you help us out, investment decks where we're gonna get investors and say, hey, the bank is willing to make a deal. This is what prices they would like let it go for. Right. We could build it back out. We just gotta weather the storm. Because again, like sports bars are gonna be, they're gonna make money at some point, right? When everything shakes out. But yeah, so all that kind of fell through, and then for me, it was just like, man, that's just like the amount of time this is gonna take to weather the storm. Like, I don't know if it's worth it at the end of the day, because then you also gotta look at your mental health.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's heartbreaking, man.
Right. So, and for me, it's like I started writing that book, Championship Grit, like when I was in the midst of that, because I'm like, I didn't consider it, but I see how some people just check out and just say, yo, this is right. Write the letter, go into the office, close the door. These are my family's good. And
you can see that, huh?
I felt it. I mean, it's like the weight of the world, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I think one thing that gave me great perspective was just like the money, the fame, none of that, it never defined me.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's true.
So I never walked out the house and, would feel ashamed because of what occurred. Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, man, that was like a saving grace, because I had that perspective like, man, we talked about it like all the time. Like I got my hard hat, I just had a turkey and cheese sandwich today for lunch. So it's like, I'm a regular dude, man. I was gifted to play, a great game, got rewarded well, invested, in what I thought was a good business at the time. Tried my hardest, man. I failed. Like that's you don't hang your hat for that, right? Right. There's a lot of successes in there. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of great things well. I mean, shit, you was a regular, right? Yeah. We had some phenomenal things. Great. Yeah, so it was just like, yeah. So it was just like, man, at the end of the day, man,
You ever, excuse me if this is going too far, but you talked about closing the door. And
right.
You ever think about that?
Suicide? Mm-hmm. So I never thought about it in the sense that I would do it. Right. Okay. But I did think about it because I never understood it before. Because you see, like this isn't rare. This occurs. So yeah. So there's people that think that way. There's people that actually have done it. And at a point, you assess how much you're worth dead. And for me, I realized that I always had this saying, like when I finished playing football, there's two things I never wanted to do, right? And that was to get fat and go broke, right? And that was kind of my go-to saying. That's why I work so hard. That's why I still work out, so I still train. And then I realized that broke is not a financial state, it's a state of mind. And then for my kids, it was like, it's not about what you leave for them, it's what you leave in them. And then so I quickly went to begin like, man, how could I turn these losses into a lesson? And how can I work and train myself and develop like high value skills that I could still position, my kids up for success? I mean, at the same time, I'm going through a divorce. So you combine the finances with also the struggles of a family. I mean, it's a dark moment. I got three kids.
3 kids, how old are they?
12, 10, and 8. Yep. Gabrielle, Garrett Jr., and Georgia, man. So, but just seeing their smiles, man. I mean, and they really don't know what's going on. Like we had to sell our house. I mean, so for me, I mean, that was daddy. They don't care what I had to do at the office. They just like, okay, we'll figure it out. You always have. So,
what was that the darkest time you had? You must have had a lot of dark times.
Yeah, for sure. I think it wasn't the darkest time I had. I think, going back to and we did a story about this. Hell, you came to New Jersey.
Far,
Yeah, we drunk Heineken's, right? So now I think losing my parents and my brother, man, was by far way darker than that.
16 months.
Yeah. At that age, and the level of knowledge and tools that I had, right? I mean, I was reeling. And football was my escape, right? I was out there playing and just like, when I'm on the field, I can't get a phone call to tell me someone else passed away. So I would stay after practice. I would go early. I'm just like, when I'm on the field, I don't have my phone on me. I'm safe out here. All right. So after you go through that, man, and this is what I tell people now, like when I'm speaking and stuff, it's just like, and for my mother and my brother, I was the executive of their estate. Meaning like I had to make the decisions on, life support with everything else. As a Christian, my belief has always been that if God, Jesus is going to make a miracle, he doesn't need a life support machine to do it. Right? I mean, there's miracles that happen every single day. So I in both situations, my mom was considered, brain dead. My brother was pretty much incapacitated. And, I made a decision to kind of, to pull the life support machine in both those cases. And being in a room when you see your loved one take their last breath.
Both of mine. It's the worst.
But it changed your perspective on life.
Mm-hmm. It does. How did it change yours?
The fact that I'm still breathing is in itself like I'm great. Like I'm not dead. So, I mean, I got a chance.
Yeah, you got a chance.
Right?
You do.
I just saw the kid. It was a video. It was a Kansas City game. Down. What was it? 3 points, 13 seconds left, and the whole family is crying. They're upset. Yeah. And the one kid was like, "There's not zeros on the clock. It's 13 seconds. They don't have zeros on the clock." And the dad's like, "It's over. It's over. It's 13 freaking seconds left." And the boy's like, "No, they're not zeros. 13 seconds. We got a chance." And sure enough,
there you go.
And I just look at that. When you get up and you breathe, bro, you got a chance. And you get to determine what that chance is. And the economy that we're in right now, man, it's just like, God. It's the worst, man. But if you have skills and you learn different values and you can add value to different people, man, you can add a great life. But then I realized that one thing that I was neglecting was me being grateful and happy for what I accomplished and what I have. So not only was I breathing, I mean, I still have 3 beautiful kids, still got my health, still got my wits, college educated, MBA, different certificates. So different knowledges. So just like, man, I will survive this. And that was kind of my mindset going through it. Like, no matter how dark it was, because
it can't be any darker than it was when you were a kid, when you were young.
And then it's all about your self-talk.
Yes.
Right? Because if you've
been to therapy, I can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. But then it's just like, I just said this yesterday. I had a speech. It was like, if we talk to our friends how we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't have any friends.
I know. It's truth.
Right?
It's truth.
So for me, I just started monitoring like the stuff that I would tell myself. And instead of, thinking and focusing on my fears and what I don't have, I started focusing on what I do have.
What's your negative self-talk and what's your good self-talk?
Oh man, I mean negative, obviously, right? You big dummy, another NFL player broke. How could you do that? Yeah. But then positive is like, bro, you didn't lose millions of dollars. You have $1 million worth of education.
I'm sorry, say it.
So you didn't lose millions of dollars. You have $1 million worth of education.
Yeah, exactly.
So go out and figure it out. Like people don't like. What I accomplished as a business owner, negotiating a lease, building out restaurants, building out floor plans, looking out layouts, successfully writing franchise documents, putting the systems documentation in the restaurant, negotiating purveyors and national contracts with Coca-Colas and food purveyors. And I mean, I have some pretty good knowledge on how to run and operate a business. So for me now, it's just like, man, using that and obviously coaching and building the systems up now. But now for me, it's just like I want to build a life that I could then back my business into.
Okay.
So before,
What does that mean?
So before I just worried about business, and if I'm being honest, it's probably why my marriage suffered. Workaholic, always at work. Freak, I'm not. Was some source. I want them all to be successful. I want them all to grow. So just working nonstop, always on your phone, working, and never sitting back and enjoying like what you had. Kids stuff. I mean, I was there and I was present. I just think I could have done a much better job. And now I'm able to put the phone down. I'm able to go on trips with my kids. I'm able to do different stuff where I probably wouldn't allow myself to do when I had that many obligations. I mean, 300, 400 employees, but your phone never stops ringing. I mean, and the stores are open from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Prep starts at 8 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like closing sometimes at 1 a.m. So obviously I had like a structure and they would call other people before they get to me, but if they couldn't get in contact with them, they would get to me. So
build it. You want to build up your life,
right,
and then sort of get back into the business as you see fit.
Yeah, but because there's a thing, like I realized for me, I was in business to like buy my freedom papers, to get time freedom, to be able to control my schedule, do everything I wanted to do. So what if you were able to control your schedule and do everything you wanted to do, limit your exposure, limit your expenses, and then make enough money to figure it out?
Right. So what does that look like?
So for me, my speaking rates and before, even when I was in a restaurant CEO, I would speak and I would do a good job. Mm-hmm. I'm really freaking good at speaking right now.
Good. I believe you would be.
I mean, I'm like, so the top speakers make like 25 to 50K for 1 hour worth of work. Like, so my range is 75 to 15. Okay. So, I mean, so speaking alone, I can survive just on speaking. Right. Then I have the podcast, YouTube, and like different type of things. I have courses online. So now it's just like, having know-how how to build business, how to build structure, that I could coach and help other people because I've been where you were. Right. I'm not doing this because I just went to school or doing this because I brought some kind of coaching certificate and now I'm a life business coach. Like I've lived this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll give you real life application on how you build a business, how you put together structures and systems, how you communicate, how you develop managers. Like I've done all this.
Did you feel like when you look back at it, did you feel like you made any big mistakes or, with the business side, or is this just the pandemic kicked everybody's ass and you got caught up in it?
No, in business, you make a lot of big mistakes, right? So yeah, but the mistakes are learnable and it's like in a game, a football game, right? You ask a quarterback, did you make any mistakes? Well, he had 3 interceptions. Yeah, he missed 2 shots, right? But he won the game at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So you're not playing the game to be perfect. So I made a bunch of mistakes, right? But the mistakes I've learned from, I smarten up and I solve them moving forward. But yeah, I think, like you said, losing the other 2 restaurants didn't help cash flow. Right. I think I had a couple employee decisions. Mm-hmm. I had this one manager. And at the time, we were promoting someone to be like a director of operations, and I chose someone over like the one manager that I should have chose, who actually should have just she should have been in charge of like running my entire company. Okay. And not that I was sexist at the time and cared that she was a woman, her style and mine was a little bit different. And not that I was intimidated by her, but I just like everyone didn't like it. Like, she was a bulldog, right? But she was freaking effective. She's killing it right now. So I think those type of things are more because you will hire someone because their resume, you pay them a bunch of money, and then they want to do nothing what they're was supposed to do.
But that's not the difference between being in the situation you're in now. I mean,
it is.
The reason you're in the situation is because of the pandemic.
Oh yeah. I mean, if the pandemic didn't come, like. And we'd have went through March Madness, basketball, franchisees open up. Like, so this is how it works, right? So when you buy restaurants, you sign like a 10-year bank loan, right? So I was in the restaurant 6 business, so I have 4 years left on bank loan. I'm paying several $1 million a year in bank debt. In 4 years, all that debt goes away and all that money goes down to the bottom line as cash flow. In addition to the franchisees, like I got one in the airport. Like this, you study restaurants that got into an airport and what that did to their franchise status.
Good.
Explosive growth.
Yeah, I mean, you could charge $15 a beer there.
Not even the cost there, because that was the franchisee location. They'd ate that, but the exposure of a sports bar being in a restaurant. How many people are at airport get through there? I'd have got 10 calls a week where people are like, "What's this concept? I love it.
Yeah.
How can I bring it to my town?"
You're right.
So if the franchise would have grew at 5 a year, conservatively, 75 a pop, 4 more years to bank that before all that money you're paying to the bank comes down to your bottom line as cash flow. I mean, I'd have been in a great scenario. I'd have been in a great situation.
Yeah. Oh man. Let me just make sure I have a million questions.
Oh yeah, no question.
All over the place. So how I did look at the Chapter 7 filing. If I remember correct, you owe about $3 million.
I think probably it's more than that. Probably like closer to 4 or something.
Closer to 4. Okay. And how do you?
It was probably was. I paid down quite a bit with like, I had to sell houses and other type of stuff.
So how do you handle that? What has to happen now?
Oh no! So in Chapter 7, you get it all gets forgiven.
Okay.
So it all gets discharged. So the only thing that again like survives like bankruptcy is taxes and marital support. Right. Okay. So I mean, so that's why you file, right? You get a fresh start.
You get a fresh start. Okay.
Right. So then it was stuff in 401k that was untouchable. Not say untouchable. That wasn't a part of the bankruptcy. Okay. So I was able to keep that, right? So 401k, everything like that wasn't affected by that from the bankruptcy side. So then you get discharged, and essentially you get a chance to like. So I mean, it's funny because in Indiana, it's a great place to live, but it's so conservative, and people really don't like. If you file bankruptcy in San Francisco, California, as a CEO of like you have offers out the door. It's a badge of honor for an entrepreneur. Like that's when the game gets good, right?
Yeah.
You know how many lessons I've learned and what things I would never do again. It's not that I forgot them, right? I'm a football player, so I analyze everything. So I went back and watched the tape about contracts I signed, like stuff I negotiated, how to structure things differently, how I could have protected assets. So now I have this information, but it's too late for me. But now I help other business owners kind of set their stuff. Hey, did you make sure you check that? Hey, you could check that? Because bankruptcy and divorce, no one talks about. No one wants to talk about that and figure out like, yo, what should I do now if I ever do it? Like, no, but there's a lot of stuff things that you should protect yourself in case if that happens. And the time to do it is not when you go through it.
Right.
So it's just like, so now I have that knowledge, that's a part of what I do, helping people. I'm actually going to Florida on Monday at a mastermind. That's why we couldn't meet next week. And I'm speaking to those guys. The title of the speech is like, be careful, you're not invincible.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I mean,
yeah.
You've been through the good times and the bad times.
Right.
And, so how does it change your life? I mean, have you had to move out of a place? What have you had to do? And you mentioned something to me on the phone about only being allowed to have a certain amount of money on you or...
No, so the date of filing bankruptcy, and this is like to get into the Super Bowl ring question, issue, concern. Right. So the statutes on bankruptcy says you're allowed, when you file, date of filing, $10,000 worth of personal property can be excluded, and you're allowed $400 in cash in your pocket. Now, it's funny. I now know that you could actually have more money, and then at the end, the trustee, you settle up with them for an amount. Okay, you had this much money, you had this much. If you want to purchase the things back that were above this number, this is what the cost would be.
Okay.
So you get an opportunity to purchase some of that stuff back.
Oh, I see.
So that's why, I still have my office. I still have everything. I had to essentially buy these items back because they were considered asset, and I had to pay back, and then that goes to pay down the creditors.
That goes to pay. Okay, so they basically rent your stuff. They basically have. I mean, is it your stuff or their stuff or?
I mean, it's your stuff as long as you pay for it.
As long as you pay for it.
If you don't, it all goes up to auction.
It goes to auction. Okay.
Yeah.
So explain the ring to me, because that's that's the thing everybody's really interested in.
Yeah. So
among other things.
yeah, exactly. So the ring situation, obviously, the AFC Championship ring and the Super Bowl ring. So how it works with your jury and all your items, they all have to get appraised, and you hope the appraisal price is something that is reasonable and you can be able to afford.
So you can buy back.
Yeah. So then the trustee goes and says, all right, cool. If I had to auction it off, I had to go through this, it's a pain in the ass. Is it really worth it? Or will I just sell it back to him at this number? As it pertains to the rings, the thought process was the appraisal came back and the question was like, hey, this is Indianapolis only Super Bowl. You're a captain.
Yeah.
I think this ring could potentially go for more than an appraisal price.
I think the appraisal was $12,000 on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And $4,000 on the AFC.
So I'm like, at that number, I just buy it back, right?
Buy back, yeah.
But at double or triple the cost, it made 0 sense for me to buy it back. Especially at the time, I mean, I have to be prudent with cash, coming out of it.
Right.
Because I have to make decisions like, all right, cool, I have to pay that back, I have to pay that back, I have to have money to survive, I have to build a business. So for me, it's just like, yo, you know what? Sell the rings, like I'll buy them back. Because I actually lost my rings at one point.
Oh, no.
And I misplaced them and I found them again. But I reached out to the people who made the rings, and what it cost to replace them was less than what their appraisal was.
Oh, really?
Yes, way less.
So what are you gonna? I mean, once this thing is up for auction, what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna buy another ring.
But you're gonna just buy a new?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's one. So the only challenge is with rings, because there's diamonds involved, is all like market influence, right? It's like a market rate type of deal. Right. So the cost of diamonds will determine the cost of the ring, and it's like a commodity, so it fluctuates. So depending on when the price is at the right time, there just be an opportunity to replace the ring. Right. So for me, again, not being like materialistic or tied to anything, like I got played in the game, right? So I have those memories, and while I love the ring, it was phenomenal. I just didn't think, for me, it was smart to buy the ring back at any means, and to have put myself farther back in the hole to be able to survive.
In theory, could somebody buy it at auction and just sell it back to you for $1? I mean, could they could do that?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. Find somebody to do that.
Yeah, I know, right? But again, and it's funny. I had several calls where people tell me that they will do that, but I told them like, hey, we buy it back, like so. And the thing was, like, I wasn't gonna get in a bidding war over my ring, right? And the thing is it's like, I mean, the trustee has been, they've been fair, and I get they're doing their job, right? So it's not like I have any animosity about the process, whatever. I think the only thing is just like, the WIBC got it right. What they said, hey, his rings are going up for auction. That's fair. Another paper, right, says like Gary Brackett is selling his rings, which was totally, but that story went national news. USA Today, TMZ, like everyone picked it up. So now the story is Gary Brackett is selling the Super ring, which looks far worse than his rings are going up for auction. Yeah. But who gives a shit about like what you say as long as you're first to the story, right? Like who gives like if you tear someone's that kid, like their kids are now, your dad's selling this. Like who cares about that? As long as you get the story out.
That hurts you when you. I mean, that has to hurt because that's not you. I mean, you're a good businessman. You got your degree. You got your MBA. You're not some knucklehead who just threw some money at a bad business venture.
I realized this, and even the funniest thing you ever wrote to me was 2006 Jacksonville Jaguars. You said
they would have run for 500 yards with the end zone.
Yeah,
in the way.
It's still hilarious, and they probably would have. You sucked that game.
Awful.
Forget A-gap. We could not tackle. Kato, come on. You got to take the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Right? When you're a celebrity and you make money off your name, you do different type of things. I mean, there's some stuff that you don't have to like it, But it just comes with the territory, right? And I'd be hella hypocritical. But I'm like, hey man, this person, like, come on, you live your life in a whatever. I mean, they get to say whatever you want to say. You get to respond to it. I don't return their calls because they do stuff like that, right? So I guess for them, they're like, freak it, we're not even gonna reach out to them. We're just gonna run it. Yeah. But I mean, they know what they're doing, right? They sold a lot of copies, got a lot of hits, got a lot of impressions. Hope the guy made a lot of money.
I don't know. I mean, but I saw the story and I was like, that doesn't sound right because I knew you had filed bankruptcy, so the thing is, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good on you, and it's not fair to you because it's not what's really happening.
Yeah, no, I mean, people were literally like calling me like, "Yo, if we buy the rings, do you get actually cash?" I'm like, no. Like, so I mean, but the thing of it is, and another thing people don't realize, like bankruptcy is like one day in time. So at this one day when you file, this is the amount of money assets you gotta have. So that was months ago. So my ability to build, to grow businesses, right, starts the day after I file bankruptcy. So people think that, because you filed bankruptcy, that all of a sudden now you're walking around, with no assets or whatever.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
You got to pay all these people back now, right? You don't have to.
No. I mean, it's not really. I don't. No. Discharge.
It just kills your, what do you call it, rating?
Your business rating, your BBB. I don't think there is. Your credit. So your credit score gets affected. So what is it? You can't buy a house for 2 years after you file for bankruptcy. That's kind of the rule.
What other limitations are there?
So it's funny, man. You can damn sure buy a car. I get mail every single day about buying a car or financing a car. So it's really, you gotta look at it. To a bank and a borrower, if you're someone that can earn income, you're most attractive after you file bankruptcy because all your debt and all your debtors are gone.
Right.
So now that new loan, they're first in line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you can't file bankruptcy like every year. I think you can only do it like every 7-10 years. So that new debt you take on, you have to pay back. Yeah. So other than like buying a house in 2 years, credit score stuff, that's pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't look good in a court of public. Like, so I get this a lot, right? So I'm coaching businesses and, I do stuff like, hey, let me help you out in your business. How can you help us? You filed bankruptcy. Exactly. It was like, so every coach that lost in the playoffs and lost the Super Bowl can never help. Right. They can never help a team win before.
I want people who've got some bruises. I want people who've got some bruises from, from playing the game.
I mean, and I said something. There's like, is not the critic who counts. Right. And there's so many people that are armchair, right? Oh yeah, I'd have done it this way. And they're just like, no, you wouldn't have. Like you're still sitting on accounts, still working a job that you hate, still miserable. You ain't did nothing. So for me, it's just like I really don't give them people much play because it's just like it just takes away from the energy that I could use into building and creating, like, the life that I want to have for myself.
The ring thing, though, excuse me. I know you can go back and get a new ring. You can buy a new ring, but that's gotta hurt, though. I mean. When you think about everything you put into that season and every season, I mean, have you come to terms with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a ring.
Excuse me. It's material. It's a ring.
I mean, the tape still, still shows me, with the most tackles in that game, right? It still shows us hosting the, Lombardi Trophy at the end of it. So for me, it's just like I get it, like. A lot of people are like sports memorabilia people, and it's the original one, and that would be awesome.
COVID about 3 weeks ago, it was just 2 bad days. It wasn't bad, but it's like I still got it, Like got the crud, but So the ring is not something that you're losing sleep about.
There's this quote that says, I learned to seek my happiness by limiting my desires rather than satisfying them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like when you get to a point in life when you could detach yourself from the materialistic things, from your job, from your relationships, from anything that should define you, and you just know you just walk around authentically, real, raw. It's like the greatest peace you can ever have.
Very liberating, isn't it? Yeah.
So
we're all working on that.
Yeah, so for me it's just like, bro, like they throw stones at Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Not to say I'm Jesus, but come on, bro. Like, you think they ain't gonna like throw stones at you?
Do you think this has changed people's view of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so in business when you're marketing, there's a few things. It's like, one, you have to speak to your ideal client avatar, like someone who you can actually help, someone you can reach, someone you can connect with. Two, the next you gotta do, if you want to be really effective, if we repel people that you don't want to work with. So there's people that already want to work with me. They already felt some type of way about me because the restaurants, they sucked. I went there one time, the wings was dry. He doesn't know how to run a bit. Like, so there's a bunch of stuff that's already out there. So yeah, people look at this. Yeah, now look at him. He's bankruptcy. Another broke NFL player. If I had made that type of money. So you have a little bit of everything. But for me, it's just like, hey, at the end of the day, you never pay my bills.
Well, the one thing, just going back, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but, you always did so much for your family back home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you got two brothers?
Two brothers surviving, one sister, two stepsisters.
Right. You always talked about taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still able to do that? And has that been one of the pressures that you've felt since all this started?
Nah, I think at that time, years ago, I retired 11 years ago.
I know. It's hard to believe.
Right? So the checks have stopped coming from NFL for a while. So they've been off the payroll. Okay. And plus I got 3 little kids of myself. Yes. So so my priority now is just, taking care of my children. Right.
Okay. Well, that was a long shot. I just
Yeah.
I was just curious. So I was going back through that story we did.
Yeah.
And you talked about how you always wanted to be the guy who took care of your family. I just wondered if things had
But the crazy part now is just like, money you can only spend once. Knowledge you can spend the rest of your life. Right. So now I am taking care of them. I'm giving them very sound advice. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the best form of care.
What happened with the divorce to the extent that you're willing to share? Was it financially?
No. So we're still trying to figure out and finalize it. But I think the crazy part is that even now, like, I still love my ex-wife. I guess legally separated is the term. But I think at some point, we're both very competitive. We both, had egos and probably let that got in the way. And I think, over time you just grow apart. Yeah. And
she's a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What kind of
family medicine.
When did this all start? Before the pandemic, the problems.
Yeah. What marriage doesn't have problems, right?
Yeah,
so yeah.
31 years of bliss.
So but definitely the pandemic and shutting down the stores definitely didn't help, right?
Didn't help anything.
Yeah. So,
but it wasn't because of
no
the financial hardships suddenly.
Mm-mm.
And she said, "This is not what I signed up for." It had been going on for quite some time.
Yep.
Okay. For people who don't know your whole story, tell me a little bit about how you prepared for life after football, the things that you did while you were still playing and shortly after you retired.
Yeah, when I was playing, they used to have these executive education programs, at University of Penn, at Northwestern University. I did several internships, had mentors, went to different seminars. Right when I finished my career in 2011, I got my MBA from George Washington University.
Right.
So
You did that online, or did you?
no, it was like an executive education program.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 6 2-week programs where we went there and other places. Since then, I've got I'm a licensed broker, real estate, and I did that. The license that I got certified as an EOS implementer. So that's like a book traction. It was like as a business coach, facilitated workshop.
Okay.
I don't do that because they went to a franchise route, and I didn't want to sign a franchise agreement. I was a franchisor, so I know how that game is played. So, I got hella certifications, and I think for me, it's not lack of education, like a knowledge, right? And that's why, I guess, again, the biggest thing for me, man, is like I just feel like I'm set up well. Just because, like, I was involved, so it wasn't like I threw my money into something,
Right.
and someone robbed me. I did it to myself. But the good thing is, like, I get to wear those scars. Like, I have them, so I learned from them. So for me now, it's just about where I want to spend, my time and what do I want to create, based on how it fits in my life, and me being able to coach my kids and be around for them.
You worked even as a little kid, right? Didn't you have
Water ice stands.
Water ice stands?
Reader's Water Ice actually went to Fisher. Donald Thomas actually owns it, ex-NFL player. So I grew up, and you would buy like a 5-gallon bucket of Reader's Water Ice, and you would sit outside and sell it, So I collected, aluminum cans, and, took them to the office, right? I cut grass, shoveled snow. So I'm definitely not a stranger to hard work.
Yeah. Well, at what point in your career did you say to yourself, I want to start preparing myself, or was this something that you did almost immediately?
Yeah, initially in the NFL as a free agent, right? My thing was like, man, if I can make $1 million, like that'd be it. I'd be set forever. Right. Then you get $1 million, $1 million, it's not really a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money, but
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Then I made great money, right? And I wanted to be a football coach, and then I saw the lifestyle that they lead, and I'm just like, man, that looks miserable. So then after I was finished, with my ex being a doctor, I just figured, I would just be a business owner and kind of operate. So. Transition. The one thing, that opportunities to probably coach after I was playing shortly thereafter and kind of get into that game, which is funny because I see some of my peers now getting head coaching jobs. So a little bit of me is like, would I have been good enough to be a head coach? I remember like 2 or 3 years ago, before Greg Schiano signed back at Rutgers, they were like flirting with the idea of like having me come be the head coach, and I was just like, well, out of here, whatever. I thought they were joking, but then the AD called me.
Is that right?
Yeah, we had like a pretty long interview, just telling me about the thing. But it's challenging for someone who doesn't coach to jump into the game, to rally up a thing. So that wasn't really feasible. But just looking at their game and their preparation, I see things today like Buffalo. There's 13 seconds left, right?
Oh.
Why don't you squib kick the ball?
Squib kick the ball. I tweeted that. At the minute they did it, I said, they got to squib the ball right now, right? Even if they just jump on it like a grenade and give themselves up.
That's 3-4 seconds.
It's a couple of seconds, and they're probably going to get the ball at 20 yard line.
And then they were like all prevent.
Yeah.
So they were 20, 30 yards back.
And along the sideline.
And let this guy just catch the ball, and they had timeouts. So I don't know if you remember, 2003, we played Kansas City, ended the game. I think we're up maybe a field goal, and they did that same play, threw it to Priest Holmes, and we would play on a man-to-man. So I was on Dante Hall, who actually shook me, and so I got beat, and then I put my eyes back on the quarterback, and they dumped it to Priest Holmes, and I slid in there and I made a tackle. And then they ran out of time. The game was over. But yeah, it was just a lot of things I kind of see, and I coach 4th grade football, so it's just fun, man.
Something to consider.
Yeah, I would never do it just because again the kids and my time, and I just value my time more than anything, man. So I like, nature and yeah. So for me, obviously I'm definitely gonna recover, and now it's just, getting through. Like you gotta weather the storm. Sometimes there's storms in life, and we could do more harm than good, right? If you overreact.
Right.
So that's why for me, I even consider not doing anything or saying anything, right? Because all storms pass. So just like, why do I even want to flame it anymore, right? But I think it was just for sanity. Like I know I have a lot of people who support me and love me, right? I want to make sure that I'm good, and I would do the same thing because I have that same love and admiration for people, and just having this opportunity to be like, yo, I'm in a good place right now, and just share people how I got there. I think is for me is it's helpful, it's soothing, but also my goal is like I want to help people.
How do you come back from this? I mean, I looked at again, I'm not a business guy, so excuse my ignorance. But it says, he owes $3-4 million. So you're telling me when you file Chapter 7, that slate goes away clean, they can take your stuff and send it to auction, get whatever they can for it. So you're not going to have to pay down stuff in the next couple of years?
So taxes is huge.
Yeah, okay.
So you still have to pay taxes. I had 10 stores, so there still were taxes and how much was owed and what was paid and what's thing. And then also, when you get your loans forgiven, it's counted as some sort of income for you.
Okay.
So then you got to deal with like paying on that. So, I mean, it's still not all over in terms of that, but in terms of the debt obligation that I owe and the people I owe, like I don't necessarily, I don't have those. Those are all discharged.
I see.
So now, I mean, it's just, go about my business, earning money, like building back up a nest egg. Like I said, 401k and those type of things were not affected by the bankruptcy. Okay. Obviously, going through divorce, there's still some things that I have to consider. But I think for now, man, it just, how do I become a person of value, and money follows value. So if you can create value, you can create money.
Right. So where do you think you'll be 5-10 years from now? Doing what?
Probably probably speaking.
You think speaking?
Yeah, I mean, I probably have 10 books by then. I mean, I have 2 books outlined right now. I have 2 books out. I got another one about to come out. I think 5 years, my son will be 15, so high school. So probably, driving around AAU tournaments, eating hot dogs right outside of the road.
Not a bad.
No, not at all.
You'll try to get back into the restaurant business ever again, or that's done?
I would never say never, right? Because I do think there is ways that you can make money in the restaurant business. And like I said, I did have a lot of profitable restaurants, so I know what that looks like.
Right. You're doing pretty well.
Yeah. No, I mean, 7 out of 10 is not. I mean, shit, that's a Hall of Fame in a lot of sports, right? But I think I think with the economy the way it is, and I think with DoorDash and some of the other technologies, I think it just, the cost, and then even employees.
Yeah, right.
So for me, I'm really just trying to look at, like, how can you set up a business that you could operate 24/7? And with the internet, and with like creating products, like I saw Master P one time, and he was like, man, products don't talk back. They don't call out work sick. They don't take off, right? They don't complain about their percentages.
Right.
They just do what they do. So for me, like creating products, writing books, digital programs, I think that's something that I'm just going to enjoy. And then the goal is for me to really be successful, and then kind of teach others how to do it, and then kind of create almost like an agency where I help other people kind of figure out ways to monetize their IP that they have and package it out and sell it.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that you'd have a hell of a message to people who have maybe fallen on hard times in business. What would that message be?
Yeah, I think it's consistent with my everything I always say. Like, just because you fail doesn't make you a failure.
Okay. Yeah.
And being able to separate, right? Because hell, when you lose a game, you don't walk around like I'm a loser. I don't have next season. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a long life. I remember when I was young, you know, you'll be around my father who was older, right? And he'll get up and his back will crack or something. I'm like, ooh. And he'll just look at me and just be like, man, just keep living, man.
Just keep living.
And you'll figure out, you know what I'm saying, what that looks like. So for me, man, it's just like, man, just keep living. This too shall pass. Just put your head down, go to work.
One foot in front of the other.
That's it, man.
So what am I forgetting to ask you? What's on your mind that you think I'm just completely?
No, I think that's great from a business sports perspective. I think that kind of covered a lot of ground in terms of, you know, what people would be thinking and considering. Hell no. I've kind of there's some things that's just like, man.
I don't think I'd go. I mean,
well, I haven't even looked at it. I haven't, like, people sit. Yeah. Somebody, thanks for telling me that. But I mean, at the end of the day, man, it is what it is. They got a job to do, man. Yeah. I'm not mad at them, right? It is what it is. But I'm not gonna be part of the circus.
Right. Yeah. I don't blame you.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yeah, good for you. Like, okay, I get one back, and so I mean, but I get it, man. When you're in business and when you like got perspective, man, you're a big boy. You make decisions. There's circumstances, there are ramifications. There's no such thing as like a perfect choice, right? A smooth sea never made a skillful sailor. So like I'm good, right? So I mean the wins are always out there. Now I'm just adjusting myself to where it is I want to go, and I feel like, you know, the sky's the limit to whatever I want it to be. Now it's just about being more intentional. But making sure that my happiness is a part of the journey.
I miss the damn pickle.
Yeah, man.
I used to go to the one, used to be Joe's Grill.
Yeah.
And then you moved it to that corner.
Mm-hmm.
But then the damn traffic got so bad on
37.
37 got so bad you could hardly.
Nah, Top Golf came and they're doing like 17, 18 million. So they so all the traffic was gonna go in there, yeah. and then that little department, that Fisher's where that little spot says
district or
yard
or whatever it's called. That's pretty cool little place.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting even looking back and see how cities, right? Like my one restaurant, Old Meridian, was my best restaurant by far, and one day we get notice that they're shutting down the street, like right in front of our store.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
For undetermined amount of time. And at the same time, there were stores opening on Main Street and everything else. And they drive traffic. We had like runs, and then everything gets switched. So it's just like, I mean, it's just a tough business, right? And
things out of your control.
Yeah. So I mean, you definitely have to look at, you know, government planning, what's going on, and just, you know, try to do the best you can, man. But it's just like you said, it's challenging. But the from the hospitality aspect of it, though, how to take care of people, employees, customers, there's no other like place like the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
To kind of garner those skills, right? So for that reason, I'm thankful just for the customer service aspect, knowing like how to treat a customer, knowing how to treat employees. I think that some of those lessons that I've learned, you're definitely gonna apply moving forward.
Just to remind me, you had 10 pickles.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You had Georgia Reese's.
Yep.
Char Blue.
Mm-hmm.
What were the other?
That was it. One Georgia Reese turned into Char Blue.
It turned into Char Blue.
Yeah. So it was the same thing.
All right, man.
Good deal. No, thank you, man. This is good. I hope this sheds some light.
Well, I'm not sure exactly when we're gonna write it.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep in mind, you know, a lot of times I'll sit and write, and my editors will be like, "Well, you need to ask him this," so I'll probably just give you a call.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. No, this is good.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're able to do it, man.
What are you doing the rest of the day?
Man, tell you what, Friday. I got a speech in Florida that I gotta finalize.
No, really. Where are you going next week?
Destin, Florida.
Destin. I'm going to Tampa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, going to Tampa for 4 days of bad golf.
I know. I need to get back out there and golf. I think this is right here.
Swing.
Yeah, nah, I was the.
Anthony Calhoun. And
Oh my God. Yeah. If you don't do it every day, man, it's just tough to kind of.
It's just a hard ass game.
Yeah.
Like I could play hockey and then not when I was playing,
Mm-hmm.
and then not play for 2 weeks and just pick right up.
Yeah.
But golf, if I don't play once every 2 days,
I can play good on the front nine and then the back nine, it'll fall apart. So
it's crazy.
nah, yeah.